Welcome to Mindset 52 with JR Rivera. Today we have a very special guest, Jose Peña, real estate investor. Thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here and very much looking forward to it. I was getting pumped on the way over here.
Yeah, listen to the right kind of music.
You know it.
No, man, it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about having one for a while, and for one reason or another, we weren't able to make it happen, but we're very excited to have you now and tell a little bit about your story. I want to start with the story of Jose Peña, man. We've obviously known each other for decades, and I want to talk a little bit about that. I want you to talk about a little bit about that. Tell me about Jose.
Well, if we want to start right from the beginning, man, literally, I was born in California. Very, very, very young as a baby. I was taken down to Sinaloa to be raised by my grandma and several aunts, a village. Mm-hmm. I was over there till I was 12. And at that point, most of my family was over here in Nebraska. And they decided, you know what, let's bring little Jose to Nebraska, have him learn English and just basically start a brand new life over here in Nebraska. Which at this point, looking back at it, I'm super grateful, right? And initially, I wasn't grateful about the Nebraska part because of the change in seasons. We're from Sinaloa, so super hot. I was expecting something similar, but now looking back at it, it's truly Nebraska is the land of opportunity, man. The super low barriers of entry, and I really appreciate that right now, right? So went to college, high school in West Point, Nebraska, which is, where a lot of us are from in our circle, which is great. And from there, I went to Wayne State, and then I transferred over to UNO, graduated as a software engineer. I did that for about 8-9 years, and then I fully transitioned over to real estate. Super short snippet,
Very condensed.
Very condensed version of it. But that's that. We're here, and that's part of the story, right?
That's awesome, man. I want to kind of take it back. So you had a little bit of a backwards immigrant story. You went back to Mexico and were born here. That has to be a unique experience because you came back also having to learn English again.
Yeah.
That's kind of a little bit of a different trajectory, but you came back to West Point, Nebraska, right, directly from
Beemer. Yeah.
Oh, same here, little town Beemer.
Beemer, 800 people population.
People.
Yeah. Jesus,
man, I forgot about that little town. But man, I think the upbringing, that environment of, even though it's a small town in Nebraska, which is like crazy, because you're coming from a completely different atmosphere. So all of a sudden being in a remote place, but it's still surrounded by a lot of similar community. The community is very, very integrated. We all knew each other. And then coincidentally, a lot of us were from the same areas back in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So the relationships were already kind of there. Growing up, you were like, family. I mean, you were like just, everybody was kind of, we all knew each other and our parents knew each other. Right. It was kind of a cool thing. How did that upbringing, you think, has affected your drive today and doing what you're doing? Because you're not doing things small. You're going after things at a very fast pace, most people would consider. How do you think that has affected your decision making?
Greatly, man. It's what you're exposed to, right? Initially being in Sinaloa, we didn't have a car at all in Sinaloa. We never had a car. And you're exposed to being in buses all day, traveling from one location to the other, the struggle of that, and at that point, I thought it was normal, it's normal life. Everybody around us did it because we had the similar, people around us with the same or similar economic capability, right? Yep. So, being exposed to that, I was in the city of Culiacan for 7 years, so that was the main city, capital city of Sinaloa. And from there, we moved over to a little small town, Palmitas. That's because all of our aunts, everybody, pretty much moved to the U.S., right? And it was just me and my grandma, who I very much love a lot. And she's like, you know what? What are we doing in Culiacan? Just me and you, in a house that we were renting, right? So she's like, let's go back to the small town. We don't have to pay rent. And I was super excited because I love that place. You know, we had all kinds of fruit trees, everything around us. You know,
great little things. You know,
oranges, lemons, guavas, avocados, mangoes. Man, it was.
You guys were stacked up.
we could not. I mean, we were set up for an apocalypse or all of that stuff, right?
A little garden.
Yeah.
Sorry to take you away from today's episode, but I did want to mention today's sponsor, which is also Accent Insurance. Accent Insurance is your go-to insurance agency here in Eastern Nebraska and Iowa. We are here to provide services for all kinds of insurance, from home insurance, auto insurance, life insurance, and everything in between. For all your insurance needs, reach out to Accent Insurance.
So seeing all of that, right? Like, we didn't have a bathroom attached to the house. We had to walk yards to the bathroom, and
outhouse kind of thing.
An outhouse.
Yeah, my grandparents still have the same situation.
Yeah, and it's weird to think about it right now, right? Because even like we had one for the basic necessities and one for the showers, which is completely different, right? Yeah. No roof on that thing, and just think about it right now. It puts you in a perspective where you see opportunities right now coming up, you know, portfolios or whatever it is of properties, and I just go for it because I have that broad spectrum of exposure to different things, right? Where I'm like, if I have this opportunity, why not take it?
100%. You're here for a reason, man.
Right.
You know, I guess the level of appreciation that, you know, it's like why not? Why not you? You know, you've gotten from, you know, point A to now point B. Why not get to point C? And I feel like that, you know, a little bit of that. I mean, when you're poor, you don't really realize that you're poor. A lot of times, if everybody else around you is the same, you know, you don't really see. I remember as a kid, you know, not knowing any different.
Right.
We were happy as shit. You know, we were having a great time, and it wasn't until later on the years I realized, like, damn, we kind of didn't have this or that. You know, but it's part of life, and I think that creates some maturity and a lot of that. What would you call it? Adversity. It kind of grows a little bit of a callus in your mind, you know, to be able to withstand a little bit more risk sometimes. Yeah. Do you think that's kind of the case?
Yeah, and from my perspective, it's calculated risk.
Calculated risk.
You know, it's I see it, and I see that time is going to pass regardless. Yeah. Right? And time is going to pass regardless. What are you going to be doing during that time? You either push yourself to get to a new level, or you just keep on doing what you're doing, right? But time is gonna pass regardless.
Hit him, boy. That's good, man. That's exactly the truth, man. Because it's honestly, we live in a world where you don't appreciate a lot of times that the time is passing by, and people let that time slip. And before you know it, you wake up. And this happens to everyone. It's really the difference of what you're doing with that time. Right. And what your experiences are, what you're actually investing into. And, you know, no pun intended. But yes, it's, you know, what you're doing with it, whether it's putting in time with family and doing the things that you really want to get to. You know, sometimes you want to do it, but you don't actually take the steps to do it. Everybody still wakes up a couple of years later and says, damn, that was... Two years just went by. Yeah, what happened? So, dude, I love that because it's so important for us to really realize that. I feel like as we getting into, you know, our mid-30s, we're starting to see a lot of that. We're starting to see things like, man, I remember when my parents were my age. You know, I remember when like all my aunts and uncles were my age. I remember that's us. No, that's not us. You know, it's now, like, and it's you know, it's more and more important to take appreciation of our time.
Definitely. And you just gotta position yourself, whether that's through education, your social circle. Yeah. I mean, it's you gotta position yourself to where you want to be in the future, right? And if either the group of people around you or your education is not going to take you to where you want to be, then you gotta change something, right? And for me, Like I've been trying to just gain as much education as possible, right? That's where the calculated risk comes from, right? Because it's the education that supports some of that stuff, right? And education can come in many different ways. This is one way, podcast. It's actually how I learned about real estate, through podcasts.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was the podcast, the Bigger Pockets podcast.
Of course.
Yeah.
One of the biggest podcasts out there.
Right. So I would listen to that podcast for about an hour a day. I had a 30-minute drive to work and a 30-minute drive back. So
That's a solid class right there.
It is. So meetups. Super important. That's what got me there too. I started just consuming as much content as possible once I identified that real estate was going to be my
So that was going to be my next question. We got into it automatically. So how did you decide that was going to be? Because you were in IT. You were doing something completely different, but very analytical. You're talking about calculated. I mean, that's the stuff that you were about. Like, how did you get into it?
So we go back to that hunger, right? To trying to identify what other revenue streams can I exploit, right? And I didn't have a lot of talent on different things. I just had IT software, right? So I started listening to books. The group of people that I was involved with, and luckily in the company that I was working with, they were super hardcore into professional development. And we had competitions to see how many books people could read or listen to, how many volunteer activities were you doing during a month period, and whoever won basically had to keep a trophy on their desk for a month. But I started just reading different books and listening to podcasts, and then eventually I got to the 4-Hour Work Week, which it's a really great book. It kind of puts things into perspective, right? Just the title itself puts things into perspective. Like, there's people working 4-hour work weeks, right? And at that point in software, I was probably doing 40 to 60 hours, depending on the week, on the deliveries and all of that stuff, right? And once I got to that book, then that triggered something in me that I was researching. I was researching what are the what were some options locally that I could do, right? And once I learned that 1% of the millionaires, not 100% of the millionaires actually own real estate. Well, not 100%, but you could say a very, very large percentage of millionaires own real estate. So I'm like, if they're doing it, then that's the way, I start going that route. And I liked it because it was tangible. I had control of the asset, and it was basically on my shoulders to either succeed or fail. And that's what I really like about real estate, right? Like, it's under your control. So if you can make it work, if you work, it works. Yeah. and that's what got me to real estate, essentially.
That's phenomenal, man. It's a heck of a journey, because it's, for a lot of people that get into real estate investments, I feel like there's some kind of already pre-established knowledge or something, and regardless of, you went through and you looked for that. You saw that there was opportunity, and you looked for another stream of income, and eventually the financial freedom.
Right.
At what point did you realize that, hey, this is it? Because you tried it out. You kind of, you went through the ropes of learning and establishing a little bit of getting into that space, dipping your toes. But at what point did you say, you know what? This is it. Was it your first one, or was it?
It was.
It was the first one?
It was the first
one. Tell us about that one.
The first one, I had this proof of concept on my brain, right? Theory. And I'm like, okay, I just need to find a cheap house I can renovate, and then I can put a tenant in and then refinance afterwards, right? That's the BRRRR method. It's called the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And I knew that a lot of people were doing it. I started attending those local meetups. People in those local meetups were doing it. And essentially, like, they provided me with the resources. When I say resources, I mean contacts, right? Like, hey, these are your contacts. Go out there, have those conversations. But first of all, you need to find that cheap property, right? Once you find that cheap property, the deal. So I found a property. I think we bought that property for like $42K back in 2018 in South Omaha.
Was it pretty rough?
No, it wasn't that bad.
42K.
42K back in those 2018, 7 years ago, right? And 42K, bought that property. We probably put like 16K into it. And then at that point, I started calling numerous banks, right? Those local banks that are willing to work with investors just like me or you or anybody here locally, right? And I took it to them. It appraised on like 140, and they were able to lend me 80% of that value, right? So I got all my money back out. Wow. Well, at that point, I didn't get all my money back out because I was working my W-2. I didn't need all that money back out, so I only refinanced the amount that I had in the property, right?
Okay.
Which was the $42,000 plus that 16K that I put into it. Right. So I got
what was it valued at?
120, 140.
Wow, that's a heck of a deal. Yeah.
So I pretty much had 50% equity on that property, incredible. Right? And my wife at that point, she was a little bit reluctant, right? We got a HELOC, home equity line of credit on our property.
Sure.
Because initially, as a Hispanic, you're taught that you don't want to be having that much debt with the bank. Right. You want to pay off.
That is bad. That is
bad.
Evil, yeah.
Yep. That is bad. So we were putting a lot of money towards our property initially. Once I got into real estate, I stopped doing that. I'm like, no, that is our cheapest debt that we have, right? I'm not going to put it towards that. But we had quite a bit of equity on our property. So I grabbed a home equity line of credit, enough to buy that property with that HELOC, which is technically a cash purchase. So I was able to move super quick with that property. And once I refinanced, I paid the HELOC back. And now we have the, full ammo and ready to move forward with another property.
So action, but the right kind of action.
Right.
Just for viewers that don't understand, the HELOC is then based off of the gap in the equity that you had. So whatever the value of the house was at that time, your personal house.
Right.
And, minus the debt, there's some space in there that you can tap into potential for a loan.
Yeah.
And that's incredible because I feel like that's what a lot of people end up using as a resource, but a lot of people don't know that it exists. That's an option for them to get into the game.
Right.
If you had a recommendation for somebody wanting to get into real estate investing, what would be something that you would suggest, at least as first steps?
I guess just try to identify what are your barriers of entry, right? Some people it's capital, some people it's knowledge, some people it's resources. Try to identify what it is that's preventing you from getting there, and then just try to. It's like what they say, right? Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Yeah. Once you have identified the problem, then just try to break it down. How can I overcome that problem? For us, at that point, it was identifying the deal, right? Like getting that deal, because I knew I had the capital with the HELOC, and I was getting the knowledge through the podcast and the meetups. So at that point, it was just execution. I need to identify that property. I need to be able to just find the right asset. But I will say that for most people, it's capital.
Yeah.
Right. For most people, it's capital. But if you're able to identify a good deal or a good asset, something comes across your desk, or you find something on the internet, or you see your neighbor's house is completely destroyed, then you can find the capital. There's hard money lenders. There's the home equity line of credits. There's construction loans and stuff like that. It's just removing that hindrance from your brain that you don't have the capital. It's not that you don't have the capital. It's you have to find the deal and then talk to people like us. Like, hey, I found this deal. Where can I find the capital? And we'll just point you in the right direction, because it doesn't cost me anything to tell you where I get my capital from. If anything, I get a recommendation or a reference fee, right?
100%.
Because these people are willing to work with you. It's just knowing that, you're going to be in debt for a little bit, but it's good debt. There is such a thing as
that
with the right,
I feel like the right calculation, the right intention. I feel like it can be a great tool. That was going to be my next question. So for somebody starting out, what's something that, or actually just in general, in real estate investing, what do you think that is the biggest misconception when it comes to financing? Is it understanding all their options, or do you think being creative, or what do you think? So sorry to take you away from this episode, but I did want to take a quick second to introduce today's sponsor, which is Cano Complete Cleaning. They do everything from commercial, residential cleaning to floor cleaning, tile cleaning, and everything in between. For all your cleaning needs, reach out to Cano Complete Cleaning.
I just think people think that they have to have a perfect score, they have to have a good job, solid income and stuff like that, right? I I mainly think it's capital that's preventing people from getting into it, right? I I think there's ways around it. You know, there's hard money is what I use a lot.
Yeah.
If I didn't have that hard money, I wouldn't have been able to grow as much as I have, because I have quick access to capital. And the thing is that nowadays I can get that capital within a week, a couple of days. Sometimes they charge me extra for that, but it's possible, right?
Yeah.
But if you have the knowledge, the knowledge in the renovations and stuff like that, you have an edge. If you have people around you that know how to do those renovations, you have an edge. So it's just being able to exploit that, but you have to be able to find a way to get there. So I think it's identifying what's stopping you and then really going at it, because a lot of people are just afraid of breaking down the problem. And any problem can be broken down into actionable items, I think.
And without a little bit of risk, without trying it out, you're never going to know.
Right.
There is risk, and I guess moving into that, has there ever been any point within this adventure in real estate investing that you wanted to call it quits, and somehow you were able to pull through and decide not to, and move on to the next thing?
So at this point, I think real estate is it for me. Like I don't see myself quitting real estate.
Yeah.
There's been times where that refinance doesn't come in on time and you have to pay your hard money guy, but it's all stress that you do have an exit, right? Like,
well, you still have hair, bro, so you're still doing pretty good.
It's luckily still there right now, but
you're holding on, man.
I know, but I get massages on almost every other week, man, because it's stressful out there. But like I said initially from the beginning, time will pass regardless, right?
Yeah.
So it's with you growing or not growing, time will pass, right? So for me, when I get to those times where it gets a little bit hectic, I just know, like, hey, real estate works. It has, and it has worked for us since the beginning. So just push through it at that point. I mean, I've gotten there was a time where one of the main sewer lines broke, and this thing, usually when your sewer line breaks, it breaks, and then you just go 40 feet in front of you and you replace that 40 feet. Mm-hmm. This property is in South Omaha, and it's in a weird place where it actually goes back 3 lots. Through the lot of the neighbor, the next lot, and then a lot of the other neighbor. And we had to dig through all of their lots,
Holy crap.
It was I got multiple bids, 30,000, 40,000. And then finally a guy came in and it was like 15,000, right? But it's one of those things that you're like, oh, damn, like, it's a property that it's a rental. I had already refinanced probably like 5 years ago. So when you think about that kind of stuff, it pretty much eats all of your rental income for the next 5 years, right?
Talk about not being, holy crap, man, that can really change things.
It does. Yeah. So, but at this point, luckily, we have a portfolio that supports that, right? But if it's your first one, I think about it, if it's your first property and you have those kind of issues, it's one of those things that could like break you down, like break your willingness to work on real estate or invest in real estate, right? Because it can happen, and it has happened for people where their first one just goes to shit.
Yeah. As calculated as you want to be, it's just there's risk involved in anything. And
yeah, I mean, this line was 20 feet in the ground,
How are you gonna know?
How could I know, but things like that happen, man. And I've learned through other investors that if it can be fixed with a check, then you just pay it, take it on the chin, and move forward.
Considering all that risk, there's a lot of different avenues that you can choose within investing. You can do single families, you can do multifamily, you can do portfolios. I feel like you've done them all. You've been all over, up and down the space. At this point in your career, what are you looking for? Are you looking for just good opportunities in general and willing to kind of look at everything, or is there a specific niche that you prefer?
At this point, just looking for good opportunities in South Omaha is where I would like to concentrate my portfolio at. I mean, whether that's single family, small multi, I buy, from one property to 20. We've done that before. So
you've done up to 20 properties?
Yeah.
And yet you kept your hair, man.
I did, man. This is an illusion. This is AI in front of you guys.
It's all coming to you from the editing from Luis.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. That's incredible. 20 property portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a pretty lean team right now, which is great, man. Like it got to the point where I was doing everything, right? Property management, renovations, flipping.
Oh, wow.
Everything. Luckily, like my wife saw the potential after different examples that we were able to make them work, right, with different houses. And then she's been basically just taking care of all the property management. That's
awesome. Shout out to Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy has been killing it, man. And then we hired another VA that from Mexico. He's freaking great customer service, handles all of our calls from tenants and stuff like that, tries to coordinate projects with the maintenance guys and all of that stuff. So if I've been able, because of that, to concentrate on acquisitions and the growing of the company, right? But we're pretty lean. Like I said, it's me, my wife, the VA, and a group of 6 guys on the field renovating these properties. We were 8, but two of them went back to their house and to their home country, which I'm excited about.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, because of them, we're able to pivot, right? Something comes up. We buy a portfolio of 3 houses. They're in better shape. Let's pivot to those, get them rental ready within a couple of days, rent them out, and then go back to those bigger projects, right?
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been great, man. So we're trying to grow that team. I've been part of masterminds, and one of the masterminds that I'm part of right now, they kind of pushed me to read the book "Buy Back Your Time."
Okay.
Which is a great book.
I don't think I've read it.
Buy Back Your Time. Which is essentially like a way of hiring to get you to those big ticket items, right? Those things, the money makers.
Yeah.
For me, it's acquisitions, buying new properties. That's what makes us money, right? That's what keeps things going. But I've been spending time at Menards buying stuff. I've been spending time basically going to these properties, putting lock boxes on the front door, delivering notices to those tenants that are getting non-renewals and stuff like that. So right now, through reading the book, I'm going to hire somebody out that's going to be taking care of those last minute material runs, those lock boxes, going to some properties. It's an hour or 2 or 3 that you lose a day just doing those small task items that I could concentrate on talking to people like you, to resources, whether that's, people that can enable us to keep on doing what we're doing, and also sellers, right? Whether that's realtors or the actual sellers themselves.
Yeah, I got to keep the ball moving. And sometimes efficiency and effectiveness, we don't see it when we're in the trenches, man. You get so dug up with all the work and everything that you're doing and staying motivated, doing everything that you're doing. But when you're in the trench, you're up here, everything's up here and everything's happening. You got to really step back, dial in what's most important. and really become as effective as you can on the most important things. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult for us to see ourselves.
Yeah.
It takes a little somebody else maybe, or a little bit of a conversation. We do it all the time because honestly, the motion and the direction of the company, the direction of what your vision is, heading towards the vision that you have, only gets you only move in that direction if you're doing the right things.
Right.
And it's very easy to get sidetracked with putting lock boxes, doing this and doing that. It can eat up your time before you know it. You just wasted 15 hours this week, 10 hours the previous week, which you could have gotten so many other opportunities.
Right. And the guy basically from the mastermind, he asked me like, is it because you don't know what to do with your time, or is it because
and you know it's just the implementation,
right? And I'm like, no, I know what to do and I know how to grow this. It's just like I don't have the time. But a lot of people basically are afraid to take that step, because then you have all this time and then you're like, what am I gonna do? Well, concentrate on growing it, on growing the business. For us, adding more places is what's gonna keep that generational wealth going for future.
That's one of the biggest triggers, I think, maturity within in business, is understanding that just because you're busy, it's not necessarily that you're being productive, and you're doing the right production and the right things. You're 100%. He's 100% right. And it's stuff that I'm looking right now as I'm talking, looking myself in the mirror and starting to be like, yeah, okay, like that's the stuff that this is what it's all about, man. All right, one last question for you. If you could give yourself one piece of advice, yourself at 21 years old. I know it's only 3 years ago, but what would that piece of advice be?
Identify one way to invest, because I am very passionate about real estate. So I try to not just be like, go into real estate, but identify what you're passionate about and then find a way to make that lucrative. Whether it's investing, whether it's art, whether it's whatever it is, just find whatever you're passionate about, because things will get hard eventually. And if you're not passionate about it, it's going to stop you. You're just going to be like table flip. I'm out.
So true.
I'm out. So find that thing that you're passionate about, learn about it, become really good and very knowledgeable in that field, and then just push forward. Start breaking down the problems. I think most people that are good on problem solving are the ones that are able to break through the barriers, break through the walls, and then just get to the next level, right? But for me, it was real estate. Super passionate about it. I continue to learn more and more every day about it. I spend thousands of dollars on masterminds because I want to be part of a group of people that either are, I tell people like I want to be the dumbest person in the room now, and it helps out a lot, right? Because you got other people with different problems, and you're like, oh man, like my problem ain't shit.
100%, yeah.
When this person is experiencing, $1 million problems, it's not necessarily that I want to experience his pain, but I want to get to the point where I'm encountering those problems and having the solutions, because people around me have already gone through that, right?
It changes the perspective of things.
It does.
And it really dials in what's important to you and where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, as to keep ourselves moving, especially with very driven people, is continuing that ambition, continuing that spark.
Yeah.
Because there can be pivots, there can be changes, there's a whole lot of adversity that comes along your way. But when you're around those motivated people that have this kind of problem, that kind of problem, all of a sudden your problems don't seem that important, that relevant, right? And it's just a different perspective, and it's good to be in those kinds of circles, man. I've been very privileged to be in that. And talking a little bit about that, you're an inspiration to a lot of our group, man, and we're all trying to move in that positive direction, move and grow. And I love what you're doing in real estate investing, and I thank you so much for being on my podcast. It was a long time coming. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate the time, man. And it's been a great experience, man. And seeing you grow with your company and what you're doing and the people around you, I'm very excited to see you guys to continue on that path.
Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
Take care.